Should Dharmendra Pradhan resign? Is he likely to resign? And are the protesters right in asking for that resignation at all? Now, we have a separate video that has gone up about the updates of the day, the protests, the lathi charge, the tear gas, the complaints about police success. Everything that happened today is in a separate video. But in this video, we're actually going to decide and we're going to talk about three things. Will he resign? Will they ask him to resign? So, is the government likely to sacrifice him? And thirdly, should they ask him to resign? Which is it right for these protesters to be demanding the resignation at all? And in these three buckets, we're actually going to break down Dharmendra Pradhan's political history and why he's so important to the BJP. It's more than you might have figured. And also the history of how often the BJP, when it was in opposition, has demanded resignations from ministers who were in power at that time and the history of these resignations in India. Before we get started, please like, share, subscribe, and sign up for our membership where we'll give you a bulletin every day that tells you everything you need to know about what's going on in the world without any bias or any trauma attached to the news. Let's get to it. Now, this is what is happening. Is it likely that Dharmendra Pradhan is going to resign? Now, if you're asking if he's likely to resign, the answer is probably not, because the BJP has over the last 1 decade displayed over and over again a consistent political doctrine where it rarely removes ministers because somebody else is demanding it, whether that's a protest or the opposition's. And we've seen this repeatedly. I'll give you a couple of cases. June 2020, the government brought in those farm laws. In September 2020, they made them into actual laws, and farmers came in from Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh. And they camped at Delhi's borders for almost a year at Singhu, Tikri, and Ghazipur. There were 11 formal rounds of talks. Hundreds of farmers actually died during that agitation. And yet, during that period, the BJP refused one clear demand, and that demand was responsibility by resigning from the agriculture minister. Now, in November 2021, the Prime Minister announced that those three farm laws would be repealed. But the government, even though it withdrew those laws, it did not sacrifice the minister. The minister at that time was Narendra Singh Tomar. He was the Agriculture Farm Welfare Minister right up to June 2024. And he was also the government's principal face of negotiation. He remained agriculture minister for 2 more years after those farm protests. Eventually, he was shuffled out and fielded in the MPL assembly elections. So, what the BJP was saying very clearly was that it is willing to sit down and talk, it is willing to reverse a policy, but it will not sacrifice a minister because that will be seen as actually bending to the wills of the protest. So, it was never given anybody the right to tell it who it can and cannot have in the Prime Minister's cabinet. Now, this happened again June 2015. When this government had just come to power, External Affairs Minister at that time, Sushma Swaraj, and Rajasthan Chief Minister Vasundhara Raje were accused of favors to Lalit Modi. There was a controversy then. At that point, there was a demand for resignations, and Rajnath Singh made a statement that was a headline in all the newspapers. He said, "We are NDA, we are not UPA. We're not going to give you a resignation." So the message there was unmistakable. He said the government will not adopt the UPA practice of removing ministers every time there is a political controversy. That philosophy has broadly endured now for 11 years. So despite those dramatic scenes that we are seeing in Delhi, thousands attempting to march to parliament, tear gas, lathi charge, the central demand is a resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan. It is unlikely that Dharmendra Pradhan will be sacrificed. Now, that's also possibly because from the BJP's point of view, if you sacrifice one minister, tomorrow they will start another protest asking for Nitin Gadkari's resignation over the E20. Then you have to start another conversation and then another, then another, then another. When does it stop? So this is something the BJP has been very clear about, that they do not sacrifice a minister. They do it on their own terms during a cabinet reshuffle at a completely different time. In fact, there was one person who told me that Dharmendra Pradhan may have been shuffled, but he wasn't because of this demand. They were to keep him just to prove a point. But there's more about Dharmendra Pradhan that we should understand, which comes to our next question. Are they likely to sacrifice him? Will they? And the answer is possibly no. It has nothing to do with the education ministry. Dharmendra Pradhan is not just a minister. He is viewed as the BJP's most valuable political organizer. Inside the BJP, he has a remarkable reputation. Now, he comes from a political family His father was a union minister in the Vajpayee government. And Pradhan himself started off in the ABVP in the 1980s. He was BJP National Secretary in 2007. He's been here for a while. National General Secretary in 2010. Cabinet berth in 2014. And for the first 7 years of the Modi government, he was known as the perhaps the longest serving, most stable petroleum minister. And apparently in independent India, he served from 2014 to 2021. And during this term, he actually pushed the flagship scheme of the Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana. Apparently within the BJP, he earned the nickname of the Ujjwala Man. And inside of the party, he is considered to be one of the most stable hands that they have. But it's not just these two ministries. He's also apparently very good at elections. Apparently, in 2024, nearly 24 years after Naveen Patnaik had been in power with the Biju Janata Dal in Odisha, the BJP spent decades trying and failing to break that dominance. The Lok Sabha and Assembly elections that were held in 2024 were helmed by Dharmendra Pradhan. And the BJP achieved what it considers to be one of the party's most prominent organizational victories outside of the Hindi belt. The BJP emerged as the largest party in the Lok Sabha elections and also in the Assembly elections, breaking the Naveen Patnaik's uninterrupted rule. Dharmendra Pradhan was at the helm of that victory. So Odisha was not just another state victory. It showed that the BJP could in fact break regional parties. And we've seen what it's done with that confidence since then. And Pradhan was apparently also then entrusted with other elections. He was apparently in Uttarakhand in 2017. He served as a party election in charge where BJP won. Uttar Pradesh 2022, he was party in charge of elections. The BJP won. Haryana 2024. Exit polls predicted a Congress victory, but the BJP secured a third consecutive term. And this has gone on more and more. The pattern actually explains why Pradhan has such a strong influence in the BJP. Now, the print in one article on the Bihar victory of 2025 said that Pradhan is close to Amit Shah and often considered Modi's most trusted lieutenant. In a senior BJP leader is quoted in that same report to say he's known as a strategist who's delivered on several elections. So, removing the education minister might seem like a straightforward thing to do, but the party's principal election strategist months before another cycle of crucial state elections are coming up is a very different question. So from inside the BJP, Dharmendra Pradhan is not just the education minister that they're going to sacrifice because protests are asking for it. He's much more. Now let's go to part 3 of this conversation, which what is this resignation supposed to achieve? Like, are they right to ask for this? And the reason why I'm bringing this up is there are several people who ask me, what is the point of asking for a resignation? Ek resignation se kya hi hoga? Nothing is going to change. The system needs to be revamped. One minister is not going to change anything. So I wanted to break down this idea of resignations altogether. Now, there are two traditions of resignations politically in our country. One is personal wrongdoing, in which case, there's misconduct, and the other one is institutional failure. Let's look at misconduct now. If a minister is accused of corruption, abuse of office, conflict of interest, for example, a resignation allows the investigation to happen without the minister influencing or tampering with any of the evidence. There is history of this. November 2010, Telecom Minister A. Raja, CAG had brought in the 2G spectrum scam. He resigned at that point. He was later arrested and then, by the CBI. In July 2011, Textile Minister Dayanidhi Maran also faced allegations because of his tenure as Telecom Minister. He resigned. May 2013, Railways Minister Pawan Kumar Bansal was resigned because his nephew was arrested on a bribery scam. Law Minister Ashwini Kumar stepped down over allegations that he had interfered with the CBI investigation. So basically, and incidentally, all these resignations were demanded by the BJP. It was in opposition. They demanded that these ministers resign. In the NDA, in the BJP rule, there's actually only one real example, and that is MJ Akbar. October 2018, more than 20 women came forward and accused him of sexual harassment. MJ Akbar resigned as Minister of State External Affairs. At the very last minute, waited until the last day to do it and said he'll fight the allegations in a personal capacity. Now, this is when there is where there's personal wrongdoing. Ministerial responsibility, which applies in this case, is a constitutional convention that is actually inherited from Westminster, from the British system, where a minister sort of accepts responsibility for failures in the department that he is or she is heading. There's no personal wrongdoing. And I'll give you a couple of examples of this as well. 1956, I'm going back. 1956, the Ariolul train disaster, 140 passengers were killed when a bridge collapsed in heavy rain. The railways minister at the time was Lal Bahadur Shastri. Nobody accused him of anything. There was no allegation of corruption, and yet he resigned. Now, the then Prime Minister Nehru initially refused to accept his resignation, but Shastri insisted that he needs to take responsibility. And that actually became one of the most defining moments of political accountability in independent India. About 40 years later, August 1999, the Gasol train collision in West Bengal killed 290 people. Railways Minister of the time, Nitish Kumar, he also resigned, taking moral responsibility for it. So the principle, does that apply here to Dharmendra Pradhan? I mean, technically, there is no evidence that Dharmendra Pradhan benefited from the paper leak or that he was in some way linked to it. The allegation against him is different. The allegation against him is for accountability, multiple examination failures within the institutions that report to his ministry. So, supporters of his resignation, those who are asking for his resignation, are saying that there has to be a symbolic responsibility from the ministry. Public confidence in the Indian education system has been severely damaged, and he needs to resign in order to show that the government is taking this seriously. The government position is different. The government is basically arguing that criminal responsibility lies with those who leaked the papers, and we've done the necessary. There have been investigations, we've arrested people, we've taken timely action. So what is the problem? And that final question that people are asking, ek resignation se kya hoga? What will the resignation actually accomplish? Would his resignation solve the problem? Now, the NTA that actually conducts the exams, credibility depends on examination security, governance, technology, oversight. Replacing one minister will not build credibility. At the same time, it signals accountability. The resignation will tell people that someone at the highest level has accepted political responsibility, has taken the blame, and so the whole system will feel that pain. And if Dharmendra Pradhan will resign, that symbolic accountability will remind all Indians that the country is taking its public institutions more seriously. So that question of should protesters demand a resignation, should these students be demanding a resignation? That is a fair question, because on one hand, I think Member of Parliament Kandra Ranaut said you shouldn't be arm twisting the government. And on the other hand, there is another argument, which is basically the government answers to citizens. This is not arm twisting. This is asking for answers. So we tend to forget actually that the government is an employee of the people. So it's sort of like your boss calling you and asking you what is going on and why something went wrong in the job that you were entrusted to do. So when people ask government for accountability and for answers, it is the boss calling the employee and asking for accountability. And if you screw up enough of times, that boss will call you to ask you to go. And that is what is happening in this case. And a lot of times we tend to forget that when we say public servant and public representative, that is what that means. The public is your boss. The public is your employer. And the public is fully within its rights to demand that you either answer the questions and go. Now, I want to remind that, the same member of parliament, Mr. Ranaut, who said you shouldn't be arm twisting the government. I would also remind her when her party was in opposition, they repeatedly asked for resignations of ministers to show accountability, because this is a done thing in a constitutional democracy. Even recently, the Prime Minister of the UK has resigned, taking accountability for what has happened under his watch. Now, we could argue that that's an old system. The Lal Bahadur Shastri system is old and we don't believe in it anymore. And that is fine, because the Constitution gives citizens right to protest, it gives citizens right to demand accountability. But who stays and who goes from within the cabinet is purely the decision of the Prime Minister. This is the Prime Minister's cabinet. Nobody can tell him technically what to do. It's his decision. He can either pay attention to what the people are saying and decide based on what he hears, or he can choose to do otherwise. That is fully within his right. So the debate is not really whether protesters are allowed to demand a resignation in a democracy. They're fully within their rights to demand. It's also fully within the rights of the Prime Minister to decide to ignore those demands and continue as he sees fit. Because when he does that, he's making a political decision and then taking a political gamble going forward on whether or not they believe that these protests will impact their next election, whether these protests will impact their public opinion of whether or not people continue to support them, and is that support they consider important. So this is where it stands. Yes, you are allowed to demand a resignation. Yes, you are allowed to demand answers. It is completely up to the government whether to decide on that resignation in your favor or not, or continue as is, as if nothing has happened. Because that is a political decision that the government will make, or the people in cabinet will make. Leave me a comment in the comment section if you believe, should he resign? Is he likely to resign? And are they right to ask for that resignation?